So the first time we ever see James Bond on the screen is when Sean Connery is playing him in the movie Dr. No. We see the character and he is immaculately dressed in black tie. And then over in Goldfinger, what do we see? Again, he continues. We've got a great Glenn Check three-piece suit, and we continue throughout that movie to actually see him actually pull off a white dinner jacket. The guy understood what classic style was all about, and he set the standard for every James Bond after it. So when I think of James Bond, I think of the gentleman spy that knows how to wear a suit. And this is what Pierce Brosnan did perfectly. So now let's talk about the most recent James Bond, Daniel Craig. So first up, we've got Casino Royale. In that movie, we see Lindy Hemming coming in. She was the costume designer also for Pierce Brosnan, the former 007. I do like the look and the fit of the various suits we see in Casino Royale. Actually, he had a very structured look, what's considered the Italian look with basically the shoulders, although when we saw the suit in the Bahamas, that right there had a pretty much an unstructured shoulder build, which makes sense because of hot weather. Overall, just a great look. Next up, we had Quantum of Solace with a new costume designer, Luis Frogley, and he brought in Tom Ford. So Tom Ford has now been designing all the suits, and what do we see? A much more contemporary, modern look. So in the shoulders, we see a more natural fit in the shoulders, which makes sense. Daniel Craig has a great body. The next James Bond movies were Skyfall and Specter. Tom Ford continued to make the suits. We saw a new costume designer, Gianni Tamine. This is the person that actually did all the costumes for the Harry Potter movies, interestingly enough. But when we look at the fit, very much 2012, 2015, the styles we saw were suppressed. Closer fitting clothing. And that's what a lot of people complain about. When they look at James Bond at this time period, they're saying, you know what? That suit is 1 to 2 sizes too small. Now, the next James Bond film, No Time to Die, they're sticking with Tom Ford suits. They're actually going to a little bit more of a relaxed fit. I think that these suits are going to look amazing. One thing I've really appreciated about Daniel Craig is the variety of the fabrics and the patterns that they've brought into the suiting, and the different looks really have done a great job. And I have to say that Daniel Craig playing James Bond, he has worn more great casual outfits than any other Bond in history. Again, across the movies, when we look at his casual wardrobe, we're going to see earth tones again and again. This is because they're versatile, they're easy to mix and match, and they're timeless in their overall feel. That's why whenever you watch one of these movies 10 years later, they don't actually feel that dated. So in the movie Quantum of Solace, we see that Harrington jacket by Tom Ford. That's timeless. Harringtons have been around for decades. The same thing in Specter, that matchless suede blouson jacket. The lighter color in the suede make it a bit flashy, but that blouson style, that's been around since the 1940s and 50s. The classic Henley long sleeve t-shirt that he's wearing in No Time to Die. Henleys have been around for over 100 years. And gents, I'm not even getting into his casual suits, the sports jackets, the overcoats that he's wearing, which I know for a lot of you guys is not casual, though technically it is. And if you could figure out a way to start wearing casual suits, I tell you, you would stand out from the crowd, you would feel and look amazing, and you would get compliments like no other. Now, there's a great scene in the movie Skyfall when Moneypenny is shaving James Bond. We see that James Bond, fresh out of the shower, this is when he's going to shave. And it makes a lot of sense because the hair on your face, guess what? It's going to be softer. In the 1964 movie Goldfinger, we see James Bond use a Gillette slim handle adjustable razor. Now, a lot of you guys already know this, and I've said this multiple times on the channel. If you're getting any type of ingrown hairs, any type of bumps or razor burn, really, if you're using a cartridge razor, you should try using a safety razor. Over the long term, it's actually a better deal. And when it comes down to it, a good safety razor with proper technique can give you the best shave of your life. Now, what about the straight razor? Yes, this is the one that we see in Skyfall, Moneypenny shaving James Bond. Love the scene, but would I let a random woman who I've never seen shave me with a straight razor? Probably not, because they call this the cutthroat razor for a reason. You can really hurt yourself with this thing. This thing takes more skill. Technique. If you can master it, an amazing tool, and I highly recommend it. That being said, the safety razor is probably a better place to start for most men. Now let's talk about Tony Stark. He is flashy, he's in your face, he understands the rules, but he decides to break them. So he's going to wear a dark colored suit, but he's going to mix it up with a bright red dress shirt. He's going to bring in accessories, change small details, bring in colors which clearly send the message, hey, I understand what you want, what the dress code is, but I'm going to set my own dress code. He's not afraid to ruffle some feathers. He wants to be the center of attention. And now let's talk about his fit. So sometimes the jacket fit, the shirt fit, the trouser fit, everything looks great. Other times, not so much. In fact, it looks like the fit is kind of mixed with Tony Stark. Next up, we've got Tony Stark's watch choice, which interestingly enough is also made by GG Lecoultre, but he's got an Amvox 3 Tourbillon GMT. Now this watch looks very much like a techie's watch. It's got the subsidiary second style, a periphery date, additional time zone for a quick east or west time adjustment. Overall, a great watch for Tony Stark. Now I need to point out that Tony also has a watch that can transform into a handheld weapon. When in watch mode, it can get through levels of security, but when it's the weapon, it can emit very powerful sonic blasts, and that can be used to fight off crazed Soviet super soldiers. Now, if you're looking to level up your style, you really need to check out my free community over on School. I've set this community up so we've got free classes that you can make your way through step by step and learn the basic foundations of men's style. We actually have giveaways. In fact, this year alone, I've given away over $15,000 in gear that has accumulated here in my office, and I love sending it out to you guys free of charge. And I have to say, the men that are in this group are friggin' awesome. We've got a no a-hole policy. People treat each other with respect. And what we've managed to create in this community is a place where a man can come in and ask questions and get some solid advice. So gents, use the link in the description of today's video. Go check out our free communities on School. These are for you to become the man you know yourself to be. Next up, we've got sunglasses. He's going to go for aviators, but that's not all, because Tony likes to bring color into his glasses. We're talking red, brown. When we look at the lenses, he also likes lenses that are lighter in shade so that you can actually see his eyes. Another thing interesting with Tony's sunglasses, they're bulletproof. Now, Tony Stark, he takes suitcase and luggage to a whole nother level. Now, Tony Stark, he does an excellent job as well when it comes to grooming, but he's got that sprezzatura thing going. It looks effortless. It looks a little bit more casual. It's not always going to be in place, but it still looks great. One thing I noticed, after a battle, he gets that mask ripped off, the hair still looks good. Now, what's interesting about Tony Stark, he's not afraid to have fun with facial hair. Now let's talk about Bruce Wayne. If I had to describe him with two words, classic and conservative. This guy grew up around money. He grew up around people that knew how to dress. He is a guy that sticks with the rules. You look at the style choices he goes with, you look at the colors he chooses. Everything is going to be classic, conservative. So dark colored on the suits. Now we look at the styles. Everything is very timeless, classic, two-button suits. And in fact, during the Dark Knight trilogy, we see that he's getting custom Armani suits. This is a guy that, is going to go with fashion suits a bit, but in a classic conservative style. What about the fit of his clothing? Well, Bruce Wayne knows fit. He understands that fit is a key component of the style pyramid, and Bruce Wayne does a great job with this. I also think that Thomas Wayne taught Bruce that your clothing should fit. He's been wearing well-fitted, custom-made clothing since he was a young man. In addition, Bruce Wayne has to pay attention to the build of his body. This guy has a body that's very difficult to fit. So because of that, he actually pays attention to it and has immaculate fit with his clothing. Now let's talk about Bruce Wayne's watch choice. He's going to go with a classic Reverso, made by GG Lecoultre. Now, this is going to be narrow in shape. It's got an old school classic design with a rectangular watch face and a brown leather band. And Bruce Wayne's hair is always on point. We go back to the 1960s. We look at Adam West. That guy is always paying attention to the part in his hair. We always notice that Bruce Wayne pays attention to the small details. Now, his grooming. Bruce Wayne is always going to be cleanly shaven. He wants to put off that image of he is someone that's classic conservative. Again, getting back to the image he wants to present. So now let's talk about Harvey Specter. Now, if I had to choose one word to describe his suits, power or maybe perfection, I have to say that I absolutely love what Tom Ford did with the outfits here. And really, when you look at this, he breaks a few rules. Yes, he goes with single-breasted. The fit is spot on. But those peak lapels, you could argue they're too much. It's just maybe a little bit too tight, but it works. He's able to walk across and it fits effortlessly. And I think this is what's the beautiful part about this suit, is that you can show, you know what, you can add a little bit of extravagance. You can add a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of sprezzatura to your outfit, and still the suit is going to carry you. I also love how throughout this, they actually show the difference of a bad suit with a good suit. Whenever we have supporting cast show up and they're not dressed very well, guess what? Harvey's like, go see my tailor. you need to step up your image game, because image is everything, because he understands the importance of projecting that image of infallibility, of people taking him seriously when he walks into the room. And when it comes to Harvey Specter and casual clothing, overall, a very good casual wardrobe. What I like is his use of Henleys, a great overall looking shirt, so much more stylish than a basic t-shirt. One of my favorite looks that Harvey Specter pulls off, the cardigan. The cardigan is a classic sweater. The buttons right on the front, the overall weight, it fits his body. It's a very good, just a great looking sweater that really makes a man look more sophisticated. Add to that strategic use of khakis, jeans, and casual button downs. Overall, a solid casual wardrobe. This guy, when it comes to grooming, when it comes to shaving, when it comes to his hair, everything, 10 out of 10. It is always in its place. Seriously, he never drops the ball throughout any part of the series. This is all about who Harvey Specter is, and he understands the importance of maintaining a strong image. Now, when it comes to watches, we can see that Harvey Specter wears a stunning 5004P chronograph. Now, this is a beautiful watch. It's got a platinum case with a black leather strap. It's got a fixed bezel with diamond hour markers. It's got a perpetual calendar, day and month in apertures, date, and leap year by hands. It's got sapphire crystal. It's about 37 millimeters in size. We've also got a moon phase and AM PM indicators. In all, a very nice watch that retails, for about $350,000, give or take a few pennies. John Wick's suits are iconic, starting with an all-black ensemble in the first film and evolving to include very dark gray and subtle contrasts like a dark blue shirt in Chapter 4, always chosen for their practicality in hiding blood and symbolizing his deadly nature. Now, when we look at the fit of these suits, it's spot on. That should be because these are custom pieces that he did have made for him. Seriously, John pays some serious coin to make sure that clothing is tailored to fit his body exactly. Now, the movie gives the impression that the clothing is specifically made for John, pretty much bespoke. However, based on the time frames we see in the movie, that's pretty much impossible because a single bespoke jacket can take over 50 hours to make. Now, most likely because of their very tight time constraints, they took an off-the-rack jacket and they adjusted it to fit. And guys, anytime you do this with a jacket, especially if you've got an easy-to-fit body type, this is going to get you a decent fit at a fair price. Now, if they're able to work miracles, let's say they had tons of pieces back there, they could actually assemble a jacket. That's called made to measure. And this is going to be for guys that are a little bit harder to fit, and it is less expensive than bespoke, which is when they build a suit from scratch. In any case, throughout the movies, John Wick wears clothing that fits his body type. And we can tell this because of the way that he's able to move. A lot of people think that a suit is somehow uncomfortable. That's not true. A suit that fits you well is incredibly comfortable, especially if you're used to wearing it, you practice wearing it, and as counterintuitive as this may sound, a high-cut armhole that's relatively small is actually going to give you more freedom of movement, which we see throughout the movie when he's able to defend himself, fight off bad guys, and do all the types of crazy stunts. Now, I've talked about this a lot here at Real Men Real Style, but when you pay extra for clothing, whether it be shoes, whether it be your suits, whether it be anything you're going to buy, you want to make sure the materials used are of high quality. Or go into a high-end menswear store and look at the most expensive clothing, at the best, because when you see it, you touch it, you have maybe a guy there that can educate you on what to look for. You start to pay attention to all the things, the build quality, the thickness of the leather, the feel of the leather, the actual way the stitching is straight versus going all over the place. Now, what about in John Wick? What do we see with the materials? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because yes, he does choose darker colors. He seems to gravitate towards that. Occasionally, when he's wearing casual clothing, he'll go with something that, just a little bit lighter colored there in the shirt. Point being is that he does actually choose some fabrics which have unique properties, in particular, bulletproof properties. Now, when you watch the movies, you may be thinking, oh, that stuff is totally science fiction. Not exactly. In fact, I remember about 20 years ago reading about a company that was making bulletproof suits. Now, were they going to bruise you? Was it going to be painful when you get shot? Yes, but guess what? It was made to withstand small arms ammunition. Now, with John Wick, on the function of the clothing was almost more of a uniform. And a uniform is something that you wear again and again. You've thought through once how you want to represent yourself, the signal you want to send, and then you basically build the wardrobe out to that. It looked like most people in the world of the assassins, they do dress sharp. They all wear these suits. They all wear jackets. There's a few people with the eclectic style, but for the vast majority of this, these are people that could walk in and out of actually that society, and they would still look good, especially in a city. Really, the function here is for him just to fit in to the society he's at, not really to stand out too much. And in fact, that's what I like about the clothing. It's really muted. It looks good. People would call him sir, even if they didn't know that he's a killer assassin that has hundreds of kills under his belt. No, I mean, just the average person seeing him on the street would say, oh, that's a businessman. That's a guy that's going places. He looks the part of just a professional. And when it comes to John Wick's watch, he actually wears a Carl F. Bucher Monero auto date. And we see this in the first movie. And we also see that he has it turned in at various points. And it's interesting. The backstory on that is whenever they were making the movie, they actually saw a number of military guys that do turn their watches inward so that they don't damage the face whenever they're just out and about doing. I didn't see that too much when I was in the Marine Corps, but it is something, it makes sense, and I kind of like that they had fun with it. Point being is he wears a nice watch and he understands the importance of time. Now, realistically, to coordinate attack, do you want to be wearing a nice dress watch? Well, it makes sense with the clothing that he wears, but most military guys, I knew they just wore G-Shocks. Now, when we look at John Wick's hair and beard, I imagine John Wick just going to a really nice stylist, someone that, doesn't use scissors because he doesn't want anything next to him, could be an assassin. Point being, is he does pay attention to that, but not overly so. And actually, he's got that really nice facial hair going through a lot of the movies. And by the way, I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments. What do you think? Keanu Reeves with facial hair, Keanu Reeves without facial hair. And I've got some coins, which if you're familiar with the John Wick lore, I got some pretty cool coins in the movie. Well, I've got some cooler coins here because guess what? You can win one for free. There's some pretty cool words on them. And I've also got my core values, honor, courage, and commitment on the back. All you have to do is leave us a really good comment and we'll reach out to probably at least a dozen of you guys and make sure you get coins. That being said, John Wick, his grooming, not always on point, but hey, he's in the real world. The guy's fighting bad guys. But one thing I think is interesting about grooming is not only your facial hair and all that stuff, but also your cleanliness. Now, gents, if you enjoyed this video, I have a feeling you are going to love this one right here. I made it a while back. It is a solid vid, so go check it out. Boom, right there. Oh, yeah.